Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. I am here. We're having just all kinds of technical difficulties today. Trying out a bunch of different things. This is why we're doing it in the fall, because if we're doing it in the spring during the Players Championship or Masters, we would be just catatonic over the state of. I feel like the shotgun start right now, just our audio and our computers and all kinds of stuff. But I am excited because we do have, for the first time, at least as kind of in a different role, Jason Page, you and I have done a couple podcasts together, but it was more back and forth. This time you're going to play the producer-commentator role. Do you feel comfortable in your new role?
I'm happy that I don't have to run the show, but I'm happy to pop in and out. So yeah, I feel very good in that position.
Perfect. You're going to pop in and out. And the main event, we've got LKD, Luke Kerr-Dineen. How do you pronounce the second part of your last name, Luke?
You just nailed it, Kyle. Kerr-Dineen. If you asked my dad, it's the Kerr that's the issue. He likes to pronounce it Kerr-Dineen, even though it's not pronounced that way. It just sounds cooler that way. But you nailed it. Kerr-Dineen. Bravo.
I've got a buddy that he's from Louisiana. And so the other day he sent us this video of himself ordering a Happy Meal at McDonald's for reasons unknown, but he was trying to say meal and he kept saying mill. I'd like to order a Happy Meal, and I texted back to the whole group and was like, I know what you think you're saying, but that is not what is coming. That's like not the way it sounds coming out of your mouth. So are there words in America that you just struggle with as with just over the years?
No, I've mostly just succumbed to the American pronunciation of stuff. Like I say soccer and American football, so I don't have a football. Those are just the two because that's the best clarity. The only one that gets aluminum instead of aluminium, I've just given up. I say aluminum now. But every time I order fast food, the one that trips up the servers is water for me. I say water. I'm holding firm on that. I'm not gonna pronounce my A's. Damn it. I'm gonna let them ride. Except they just don't understand, so I end up having to say water, and then they get it. But yeah, I'm gonna die on that hill. I've given up enough, Kyle.
Like a lowbrow American. I need some water.
Give me some water with a D.
or water in Philly. You don't want to talk about that in Philly.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, D. I wanted to have you on. You and I always have fun and good conversations when we hang out at major championships, and we're kind of trying something a little bit different today. We're doing kind of a segmented show. I think up until this point, it's been a little bit more free flowing, and this will still be free flowing, and we'll talk about whatever comes up, but. I wanted to segment it out a little bit and have some structure around it. So the first thing that I would like to get into, actually, before we get into it, I would love for you to kind of tell people your background in golf, because I think you've brought a ton of context and insight within the golf world. If people don't know, you have worked for Golf Digest for a long time, and you've done a really good job of providing some context to the professional game through the videos that you guys are making and putting on YouTube, through a lot of swing analysis and different things like that. So just walk me through, what is your background? How did you get into not just golf, but everything in golf media over the last several years?
It's funny. Your question reminds me. I was walking around with Max Homer at the Memorial, and he said the same thing. He's like, how did this happen? How does somebody get this into the golf swing and into the golf nerdy stuff? So my background, I fell in love with the game in 1999, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. But I just caught the bug. I was living in England at the time. I came to the game kind of late. I was 12, but I got really into it. And I ended up moving to America because my mom's American. And I went to the International Junior Golf Academy, which is down in Hilton Head Island at the time. So I came over here in 9th grade and just was so obsessed with golf. Obviously it's a highly technical environment. We were doing golf swing stuff from such an early age and studying it. And I was just so into it. And so, that was through my high school, still really into it, didn't get burnt out somehow, went to go play college golf, stuck in the same area at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. And then about halfway through there, I was like intent on being a pro golfer. Like, I'm going to be a pro golfer. And then you just start looking around and playing college kids. I played a ton of golf with Kyle Stanley, and you're like, oh yeah, like I am not good enough to be a pro golfer. Like, I remember, this is a bit of a subject, but I remember one day, so like Kyle Stanley, obviously a really good player, PGA Tour winner, but not like all-timer, right? Like just solidly good PGA Tour player for a long time. I remember he would just like chip and putt all day, and we'd go out and play. And on this one hole at Berkeley Hall, I hit a driver, a 3-wood, and then like kind of a 50-yard wedge shot, call it. And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. He hit driver 7-iron into it. And I was just like, yeah, like he's just an alien. Like, I'm not good enough for this. So that's when I started getting into other stuff. I got into student government at USCB, and I was editor of the student newspaper and started doing internships along the way. I didn't think I wanted to cover golf for a while. Thought I wanted to cover politics. And then after getting a small taste of that world, I was like, this is just the worst. I don't want to cover.
Worse than Live and the PGA Tour?
Just so much worse. And I had met Eamon Lynch. Weirdly, took me out to lunch and said, you should go talk to Jerry Tardy because he loves hiring good golfers. And I went and talked my way into a job with Jerry Tardy at Golf Digest. And, I'd left since and came back. But that's kind of how I got into golf. And it's just kind of ultimately the culmination of just this really player-specific technical background that I had in school, combined with this like journalism background that I had through grad school and college and stuff, and the two just kind of came together. So, kind of lucky how it all worked out.
What was I think we all are in to some degree. What was the part of covering politics that you got into that you're like, I think I'm good? So I was covering like the breaking. So my first internship was at USA Today. I was on the breaking news desk. So it was like a lot of like, that was during the whole like this is a bit of a deep cut, but like the whole like cut cap balance Obama era stuff, So it was like, there were these constant gridlocks where the government was just like shutting down and everyone hated each other. It was like the real first taste of that. And then I covered that following election just as like a kind of freelancer. And, people, it was just like a weird combination of really clubby and, really clubby and tough to get in. And also just kind of like this slightly slimy world where you just feel like people aren't actually like talking with like some kind of shared common ground. It's all just like teams. They kind of love it, but it's kind of like this gross little game they're all playing, but they kind of are like really into it. It's just the vibe, I guess, is the simple ones. The vibe was just off, Kyle. I didn't like it. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Was Stanley the guy that, because I asked people this that used to play sports. I was college baseball. I wasn't golf. I was high school college baseball. And there's always somebody that people who used to, or who played at a competitive level at high school or beyond, where they run into somebody that plays the same sport and you're like, I can't do that. Like what? I don't think the future is looking too bright for old Kyle here after seeing what, so-and-so did, over 8 innings on Friday night. So was he the one, or was there anybody else that you ran into that you're like, that's going to be problematic? It's funny. So I went to high school with Stuart Hagestad too. So he was super good. But it's funny. So I was in the like Ricky Fowler, Peter Uihlein generation of golfers, but those guys were like studs. And they went to Oklahoma State. So in some ways you can rationalize that as being like, oh, well, those guys are obviously going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. It was Kyle, and Stuart Hagestad was a little younger than me, but he was awesome, but it wasn't quite apples to apples because we weren't in the same age group competing against each other, even though he was way better than I was. But Kyle was the one for me because he was obviously this like incredibly good player, like a top college player, played at Clemson, all this stuff. But he was like just below that cut of like obviously going to be awesome players, right? And you're like, wow, if he's this good and he's not even like the best, what chance do I have? That was probably the one that opened my eyes the most. Yeah, because there's 200 spots, 170 spots on the tour, and you're like, well, like, okay, if he's number 140. Like, I mean, what are we doing? And it's like when sometimes it's worth backing up a little bit, like walking the range with like Brentley Romine. This is like the perfect guy to do it with, and I do it every now and again. And sometimes when you back up and you realize like, oh my God, these are all like NCAA champs, all Americans. They were all just
absolute studs at every level they played in. And they are just like one of the many out on the PGA Tour. It really is just incredible, like the level you have to be just to get in the conversation.
Well, that was the thing for me. And I looked this up a year ago. In Major League Baseball, there's obviously more spots than there is on the PGA Tour, but every year there's turnover of about, I think, 200 to 250 players. So 200 guys out of the whatever 750 or 800 that are in there. So 200 guys out, 200 new guys in. If you don't, I think it was 250 out. So if you say, let's say 50 of those new spots are international, I think that's probably undershooting it because there's a lot of international baseball players that come into Major League Baseball. So let's say there's 200 spots for American-born players, which is, again, probably pretty generous. That means every year, like for my age group, you have to be one of the 4 best in your state. If we're saying every state sends 4 guys, you have to be one of the 4 best in your state. So now you have to think, am I even the best guy on my team, in my town, in my city, in my broader region? Like there's only 4 guys from each state that jump into it every year. And once you start thinking about it, like from a mathematical standpoint, you're like, I have no chance of, and I think the underbelly of that is the minor league edition of trying to chase it professionally, whether it's Korn Ferry or lower, or for Major League Baseball, single A, double A, that's a hard life. And you have to like really want to enter into that to continue chasing it.
And something I don't think we really talk about is that catching up it takes just like a miracle in order to catch up, because it's not like if you're like the 5th best guy in your state, right? And you could say, okay, well, the 4 guys ahead of me, maybe one of them's going to burn out, maybe bad injury, like, well, now you're suddenly in the conversation, whatever. But like, if you're the 12th best guy or the 15th best guy, maybe you're like, it's kind of a miracle if you can get up to being the 8th best guy, because like these guys are going to continue improving too. It's like the interest compounds, right? So they're going to keep getting better too. So in order to catch up to them, who are already getting better, you have to like clearly be better than them in sort of every facet of your practice and all this stuff, in order to be not just keeping up with them, but to actually be gaining ground on them in a fairly quick amount of time. I mean, it's really really difficult.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think maybe Kyle Stanley will be my new go-to for like, I tell people all the time, like, you have no idea how good Scotty Scheffler is, because I'm pretty sure you have no idea how good Kyle Stanley is. And Scotty Scheffler is standard deviations better than Kyle Stanley.
And like, so, and you know, I play a ton of golf with a buddy of mine, Sal Sayed. He runs Arcos. He is like, we're about as good as each other. He's like a little better than a scratch. And he is like the best putter I know. He is phenomenally good at putting by any standard. You go out with him, you'll be like, oh my God, this guy doesn't miss. He's amazing. And when you look, you know, because he runs Arcos, he keeps all his stats. He is PGA Tour average putter. Like, I think a hair better than average. And you're just like, he is literally the best putter I know. Like, he keeps putting. And he is like, would be okay on tour at putting. It's just, sometimes the context, it's easy to take for granted. But just like, again, these guys are good.
Yeah, they are very good. Jason, what's up?
I mean, I've often thought of the context of golf when you think about even like localized golf legends or people who have won like a bunch of club championships, and that the number can sometimes be really like mind blowing. But then you think like, did they have any competition? How were the years in which they played? I mean, you also have people who shot their age like a million times. You think like, did they do it in Florida or did they do it in Pennsylvania? I mean, there's so much nuance to it, but yeah, context matters, I guess.
I kind of generally hate like hokey takes, but this is a little hokey, but I do actually believe this one, where they'll say, somebody told me like a scratch golfer is closer in ability to a 90s shooter than he is to a pro golfer. So, you know, you're talking just over 18 shots. And I honestly kind of believe it. Just seeing these guys playing with these guys, it's incredible.
I remember when Shane Bacon made the USAM, and I think it was the one at Cherry Hills, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And Shane Bacon's the best player I've ever or the best non-pro, I guess I've ever played with. Like he's unbelievable. Like he's so long, he's so good. We played this course called Old American in, I think it's in the Colony up here in Dallas. They play a LPGA event there, and I think they do. I know they play some U.S. Open qualifiers. And I went out and played from the regular tees and shot like 89 or 91 or something, and felt like I hit it pretty good. And he played from the tips and shot like 73, and it was like easy. Like it was not a stressful 73. And he gets done playing the USAM at Cherry Hills, and he's like, I don't understand. And these are amateurs. They're very good amateurs, but he's like, I don't understand like how much better these guys are than I am, and they're not even professionals. And it's just like the statement of, hey, a scratch golfer is closer to a 90th than a pro. I totally believe that. Like I think that's completely valid.
Or like I did this YouTube series once called The Grid, which is you get pros trying to hit shots into certain distance shots. And what I found is that they're like the rest of us, if we hit 10 shots, right, we'll hit 4 good, and then we'll thin a couple, then we'll toe a couple, and that will change around the distance. So like about half of the shots that you hit are like just baseline execution errors, right? Like I have to throw that one out because I didn't do that properly. Guys, the pros don't really make execution errors, and they certainly don't make big execution errors. So their execution errors are tiny. We're talking grooves, right?
Yeah.
Grooves high or low. And that doesn't even happen very much. Usually what you're seeing are like misjudgments, Oh, it is a hard 6, not a soft 6. I should go ahead and hit the hard 6, which is again, it's just incredible, like how they have managed to get to that level of excellence.
Yeah, I think that's really good context. Okay, the first thing I wanted to do, as we're 20 minutes into talking about how bad we are at golf, the first thing I wanted to do, you and I have had this conversation privately, just at tournaments or whatever, and I wanted to have it publicly, and I wanted I wanted us both to bring some stats to the table. So these are what we're calling stats that aren't stats, but maybe could be stats and maybe should be stats. So what I mean by that is I think you and I are aligned in that golf is trailing some of the other sports in terms of its statistical revolution or statistical, evolution even. Everything can be measured in golf, and yet we have sports where it's harder to measure things like basketball and football kind of outpacing it in terms of the statistical output that those sports have. So we'll let you go first, and we'll kind of trade back and forth. And I'd love to hear, what is your first stat that nobody is really doing or tracking that isn't a real stat yet, but maybe could and should be?
Yeah, I feel like we haven't even really reached the 1.0 era in stats, God bless Mark Brody for coming along and giving us strokes gained, because it just doesn't seem like it's a high priority in tour world. So we're kind of starting at a pretty simple baseline. The one I would like to see is basically the equivalent of barrels in baseball. And this is really easy to do. I wrote an article about this once. I called it power percentage. You could also call it like crushed percentage or something. And basically, this is how close or how often a player hits a drive that's close to their ceiling. So just to keep the math simple, let's say that Kyle gets out there and hits a drive. We know that his ceiling, his fastest drive he's ever hit is 100 mile per hour ball speed, right? We know that that's like the fastest. And then on the 5th hole, we're playing around, and then you get hold of one and it goes 98 miles per hour. We know that you were within 98% of your best drive ever. And I think that this is something that would be, again, pretty easy to do because we have all these players as max ball speeds. We get their ball speed in real time on TV. And this would just provide context to like 2 things. First of all, how good is a player at, like, how close are they flying to the sun, right? Like, how good are they hitting the ball? How often are they, like, hitting, are they flying close to their max? But also it provides context for the viewer, right? If I'm at home and you hear someone, Trevor Immelman, pop up and say, oh, Rory really got hold of that one. He really smoked that. And then something pops up screen that said, Rory just hit a new high ball speed for the season, or that was 99% of Rory's maximum ever ball speed drive. Suddenly you're like, oh, wow, like he did hit that one. Or if somebody hits a poorly, vice versa. You're like, oh, that was only 90% of what he's capable of, or 80%. Again, just a little contextual information that I think
I love that. I think my first question is, how often is our players' max ball speed their actual max ball speed? And I guess what I mean by that is, let's say Finau hits 184 ball speed. Well, the reality is, like, when we're on the driving range, like, let's say his max ball speed in tournament play is 184. When we're on the driving range, he can hit it like 196, but he chooses not to do that in a tournament.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that would happen? And I guess it doesn't matter, because your max ball speed in tournament play is your max ball speed in tournament play. So maybe you don't have the confidence to go out there and hit what your actual max speed is in a real tournament.
Yeah. So I think I land where what you just said, basically, that we have to cap it somewhere. We should just take your fastest drive ever if you do this stat. That said, Tony Finau is a good example, because if you zoom out and you look at the data set of just like, you have enough drives, Tony Finau like has gone after drives before in certain conditions. So his max ball speed on tour is in the 190s, but he's a great example because his like power percentage is way lower relative to his max. And that tells the story accurately about what Tony Finau is, right? He has way more in the tank than he uses. Like Rory McIlroy and Victor Hovland are two great examples of the opposite. Like they're elite ball strikers, elite drivers with lots of speed. And they are like, they kind of average within 96% of their maximum ball speed just kind of on a given day.
Yeah.
But Tony Finau, he averages more like high 80s%, which is, again, then you look at it with your eye and you're like, yeah, that's actually accurate. Like Tony Finau does do that, because there are enough opportunities over the course of multiple seasons where a player will just really go after one.
Yeah.
I mean, to make the parallel to baseball, I think that's such a good like source of stats and knowledge, but also history in terms of like when new teams or teams go to a baseball stadium and someone hits a home run, they immediately know like that's the longest home run that's ever been hit in this stadium in the last 50 years or something, and that just enhances the viewing experience so much in that moment of like, is this the longest drive someone's hit at Pebble Beach? I mean, it's interesting when it gets kind of tied to the location.
It can also raise flags too. Like Homer's a great example. He's struggled the past year and a half or so. His ceiling didn't change, but his power percentage, so how often he got close to that ceiling it dipped way down. And that's in some ways that can that can raise a red flag, right? Like, oh, he's not he's not exercising what he's capable of all of a sudden. So that could have different gambling implications and stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think golf in general is pretty bad at context, and so I think that at least professional golf is generally bad at context. So I think that having better context like this would enhance the fans' experience and the viewers' experience. My first one, LKD, is we could probably spend the whole hour and a half on this, but is on just doing these stats, is high leverage performance. And so I mentioned this actually in a recent podcast with Jason. And what I mean by this, there was a quote from, I believe it was Eduardo Molinari, who talked about how over the last several years, the European Ryder Cup team measures your performance when you get near the lead in a tournament. And I think that is really valuable. It's really meaningful information because, and the example that I used with Jason is that I think Roberto Castro was asking Data Golf on Twitter, which is an insane string of words there, an insane sentence, but he was asking, can you differentiate between strokes gained in contention, strokes gained out of contention? And they don't have that feature. I think they probably could have it if they wanted to. I'm maybe speaking out of turn there, but that to me is just, okay, I think of somebody like Tommy Fleetwood's an easy example of like, hey, when he gets in contention, maybe he struggles a little bit, but that's also the eye test and me watching and trying to internalize some things. Is this actually true? Does he struggle compared to his baseline as it relates to being in contention? And people, after Jason and I talked about this, they pointed out that Data Golf has the feature where it's like, okay, did you start the round within however many strokes of the lead? How'd you perform relative to your normal? But I'm talking more about, are you at any point near the lead of the tournament? And that's a different thing, because you can start the round within one stroke of the lead, fall way out of contention, have a good round, but it doesn't, like, you were out of contention already. So I think that would be a really cool stat to have, to kind of contextualize which guys are good whenever you're feeling some things that you're not normally feeling on a Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, and you could totally do this. It just, it would just need to be a priority for the tour, which it just isn't right now. But, it's like, you could also zoom out where you could start weighing different things. So like a par putt, you could say is a high leverage situation, but not as high as a par putt plus a tournament, plus a putt that to win the tournament or to get into a playoff or something, right? So you can weigh all these different things. And Mark Brody's found that par putts and birdie putts, their make rates right about the same. Which is actually helpful, because that means, okay, this is what's supposed to happen. There should be about the same. If one player is missing a ton of par putts, for instance, but making his birdie putts, that then suggests like perhaps he's not as good in these pressurized situations, because, there's always maybe just intrinsically a little more nerve. It's a little more nerve-wracking to be putting for par than birdie. And that would just be a fascinating little insight, right? And same with if you manage to do it with Ryder Cups, if putts to win the hole versus tie the hole versus, when your partner's already close to the hole, like that would be fascinating too.
Totally.
Though I know who would win. Justin Rose would win.
Yeah, for sure. God, I can't. Yeah, we don't need to get into that. And even I've gained insight even playing around with that data golf tool, where it's okay, how did you, when you were leading going into a final round, what was your strokes gain compared to what it was supposed to be, compared to your historical norms? Like, if you look through it, you get the insight. And I wouldn't have thought this going in necessarily. Maybe I would have, but maybe not. Bryson's a really good closer, and somebody Rory is not. And the reason Rory wins so much is because he puts himself in that position more, like twice as much as anybody. I mean, it's extraordinary how often he's in the top three going into the final round compared to even the top players. And the same over the last 2 years is true for Scotty. So you get a fuller picture of the player and how they're winning or what they're doing to win. Some guys close out final rounds when they're in contention. Max Homa comes to mind. Bryson does that. Some guys just put themselves there over and over and over and over again, and things just happen to go their way. So stuff like that is just, I think it's really important, maybe more so for us than the casual fan, but to have as sort of like, okay, this is the narrative of this player, and it's not just my perception of it, which is important, but it's also like statistically true, and I can show you how it's statistically true and how it has evolved over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so my second stat, which this very much reminds me of, maybe they're the same, is something like momentum adjusted strokes gained or momentum adjusted make rate. And so the idea is that, like the recent Royal Liverpool British Open, where Brian Harman literally didn't miss a putt inside of 12 feet or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Something that's like a dynamic that explains, like, okay, now Brian Harman has another 12-footer. Like, what is his expected make rate on this? It's almost like your power, you're adjusting the make rate to account for what streak he's on, or vice versa, right? Like, if you're a driver, Rory's obviously an amazing driver, for instance, but let's say he's just hit 2 terrible drives, because sometimes he can go sideways, like a Philly Cricket Club over the summer, right? Like, what is his expected strokes gain on this next drive with the information that he's not hit a fairway yet this round? Like, even if you just factored it in and did it in real time, that would be interesting. But again, if there was like a model that could maybe see like, oh, he's expected to regress to the mean here, or actually he's probably going to miss this putt or he's 15% more likely to miss this putt because he hasn't made one yet today. I don't know if it works like that, but it would be fascinating to see something like that.
Long before a certain left-handed Hall of Famer was boasting about hitting hellacious seeds, a small team based at a university in the Midlands of Ireland was quietly planning to upend the premium golf ball market. Seed golf began in 2017 and probably makes the best golf balls you've never heard of. They've been racking up awards for their performance since then and have quietly become the darlings of golf reviewers all over YouTube. Go check them out at seedgolf.co and use the discount code NORMALSPORT for 20% off your first order. Well, two things come to mind. We'll get to you in a second, Jason. Two things come to mind. One is we need to have just a PSA on what strokes gained is, because I think somebody like my dad hears strokes gained and he just like can't. He thinks in his head that it's more complex than it actually is, right? I think maybe Luke and I need to put together this PSA. We can bring Solly in also, but and Rick Gaiman. So that's one thing. And I think the second thing is actually a question for you, Luke, which is, do you believe in momentum? Because I remember when I was coming up and like the Moneyball stuff in baseball, and there was this whole thing about like momentum's not a real thing. Derek Jeter hits the same, he's got the same average in the ninth inning with 2 outs as he does in the first inning with nobody out. And I haven't delved into it enough to prove or disprove any of that, specifically in golf. But man, you and I have both played competitive sports, and I just mentally, that's not how I feel. And so I would be fascinated to hear your take on whether you think momentum and streaking, like a streak, is affects the way you actually play.
Yeah, this is one of these like, if there's no evidence for it, why do I keep seeing it happen thing? Like maybe it's maybe it's just variance. Maybe it's just random variance that happens in a very specific. But it just that doesn't feel right. What feels, at least to me, more likely is that we just haven't figured out why this happens yet, or how. Like we don't understand like why momentum happens, what it is. I mean. So I just feel like I've seen it enough times where somebody gets going and they get this irrational confidence and then they just keep going. And maybe the confidence comes because they're riding this random variance good streak and vice versa on a bad streak. But I don't know. It feels like, and again, this matches anecdotally what pros say too, that I was feeling great. I feel like I couldn't miss. And I don't know. To me, it just feels like, where there's smoke, there's fire situation, especially, like the 2025 Masters in some ways was a classic example of once Rory dumped that shot into the hazard on 13, you could just feel like everything drain out of the crowd, out of him, and there was momentum was going in the wrong way all of a sudden. And it was just, so yeah, I don't know. I think we just don't understand it yet, but I feel like I've seen these streaks happen, and it maybe changes the mindset of players in a way that actually affects the outcome.
Totally. And I think the window of time you're looking at matters too, right? Because if you look at a long enough window of time, then sure, maybe it smooths out a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't done this in golf, but over a short enough window of time, you're like, I mean, like, look, like Brian Harman made everything he looked at Liverpool. And some of that has to be because mentally he's like, I'm going to make everything that I look at because that's what again, if you've played sports, it's just very, very difficult to think that that's not a factor at all. Jason, go ahead.
I mean, I'm curious to hear, in your years on tour, both of you guys, have you heard instances of players reacting live or in time to these kind of momentum swings, or telling themselves like, I wasn't expected to make that anyway, or putting other players' performances into perspective? Yeah,
totally. I think pros on the whole tend to be irrationally confident. Like I think in order to be a pro, you have to have some level of like irrationality, right? So you make your money like really trying hard and making that 6-footer 4% of the time more than the schlub who's down on the Corn Ferry Tour, who's also an NCAA champion, right? Like this is, and so I think it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think this is exactly what pros struggle with, is that they don't miss a 6-foot and say, well, that happens 40% of the time, whoops. Like they get just pissed off 100% of the time because they think they should make it 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think the thing that comes to mind for me, Jason, is actually the Ryder Cup, and how I think that both teams are now entering into it knowing what the narrative has been over the last decade. And again, there's almost no way to prove this, which is part of why I love talking about the Ryder Cup, because you can't prove or disprove anything because the sample size is so small. But I think Viktor Hovland enters the Ryder Cup thinking like, hey, I had the year I had, whatever. I'm going to make every putt that I have at Bethpage. And there's just something about that. And the flip side is true too. Like, I think the Americans enter like with not that kind of confidence. And you don't necessarily hear them. Nobody would ever say that, but that to me, again, this is a perception thing. It's anecdotal. I can't statistically prove it, but I feel like we've, again, watched it play out enough times that there's something there that is like a real mental, emotional thing that, like, I thought what Luke said is really smart of like, hey, there's literally no way to measure this, but man, you can just, when you're out there, you can just feel it. Like you can literally like feel it. And I think that's part of why I love sports, is because you know, we're talking about all these things that we could or should be able to measure, but there's some stuff that you're like, feels like magic. And that's why I love it. And yeah, so that's a really interesting and good question. My second one, LKD, is, and mine are all strokes game, but strokes game playing with different players or being paired with different players. Because when I think about my own golf and going out and playing with different people, there's just times where I'm more comfortable playing with certain guys than if I go out and play with three of my best friends, I'm more comfortable than if I go out and play with three people that I don't know. And, or maybe a guy that I have met and I don't really like that much. And so I would be curious to see what guys or what players different strokes gained are when they're paired with different people. And maybe you could only do it when it's twosomes rather than threes, because you start to introduce more variables there. But I think that would be really, really interesting. And again, maybe these are just tools that you and I would use in the way that we talk about or write about or think about some of this stuff. But as a fan, I would be fascinated. It's almost like matchups in baseball, right? This pitcher against this hitter or whatever, this cornerback against this wide receiver. Like, again, you're not playing against that guy necessarily. It's not match play, but you're playing with them, and how they act and what they do can affect how you feel and seemingly how you play.
Yeah, I mean, like, there would be the super users of this stuff, right? People who just like pile into it. But then I think the value of it is that it would be a resource that informs the narrative, right? So then all of a sudden fans would be like, Rory's playing with Shane Lowry in the third round. Like, he always plays well with Shane Lowry. It just, I think...
Which we say, but we can't prove.
We can't prove it. And therefore we say things like, momentum doesn't exist. People will say like, momentum doesn't exist because how do we... It may be that momentum exists in part because there's some Rory McIlroy's just jiving with Shane Lowry and he's making all these putts that day. He's feeling, so it just, I think it informs the overall narrative in a way that actually feels real, right? Because you can actually prove some of this stuff, or it can get you excited too. If you say, Rory's playing with Patrick Reed and he hates playing with Patrick Reed, he always plays worse with Patrick Reed. Suddenly there's just some stakes. There's some context. There's some stakes to what's about to happen, which I think golf isn't generally very good at.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like I'm a little bit talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I am very much a proponent of statistics. And now I'm saying like, I feel a certain way. But I think the part of the problem is what we're getting at, which is the statistics to kind of prove what I'm feeling or getting at don't even exist. And I'm asking for them to exist. Maybe you and I should just go make them, because all the data, I mean, again, this is not even as complex as like what Mark Brody did. This is very basic stuff. It's just databases and adding things together and a bunch of stuff that I, again, don't know how to do. But the reason I want them to exist is because I want to be able to prove or disprove some of these theories that I have of momentum, of are guys more comfortable, of is pressure a real thing? And I feel like you just yell about it right now. You can't disprove or prove it one way or the other. Yeah.
And like, again, we're not saying, we should, I can think of a bazillion golf swing type statistics, which would require actually hiring people to like capture this data in a very specific way. We're not talking about any of that. Like my third stat is unforced errors, which my way of doing it would just be like, just combine a couple of high likelihood outcome situations and how often do players make them. So like how often is Kyle Porter missing a green in regulation from inside 100 yards or missing a putt inside 5 feet? You know, like how many, and then just like rank them on tour. Like we have all that stuff already. We can see how often Rory misses a putt between 3 and 5 feet or whatever. Like, and that would just be like one part, and you just combine 5 stats like that or whatever. And suddenly you just say, this is unforced errors. It's when you fail in a high likelihood outcome situation. And again, we're not talking about capturing any data. It's literally just, this is like the equivalent of OPS or something, right? Where you're just combining and weighting a few different things and being like, oh, Kyle Porter has a horrible OPS in golf.
For sure, I do. This is a good one because I think I think about Pinehurst, right, with Rory. Was this an unfair? And some of this is hard because I think strokes gain and shot link, there are certainly flaws in it, right? Not all 4-foot putts are created equal. And so I think there's some, you might have to amend some of that a little bit. Like Rory's missed putt on the 18th hole at Pinehurst is an unforced error when you're putting on a flat surface at Harbortown, but maybe it's not an unforced error when you're putting, downhill to win the US Open at Pinehurst with whatever. Data Golf does this thing where they have kind of the opposite of this. Like, I can't remember what they call it.
Bad shot, I think.
Yeah.
Where they do it where like if you have a strokes gain that loses more than half a stroke, that's a good shot. Or that's a bad shot, and vice versa for a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking they only had it for good, but maybe they have it for bad. I haven't looked at tournament data in a while because it's November 4th or whatever. But yeah, there is some of that. You have to dig a little bit and this would be great context for the broadcast, right? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm just excited. I don't mean to cut you off. But like, you can also see how these things can start working together now. So if you could be like, Rory McIlroy makes more unforced errors in high pressure situations. And so now he's got this 4-footer at Pinehurst to win. Like, what's he expected to do here? Or like Rory makes less unforced errors when he's playing with Shane Lowry. And suddenly you can like mix and match these things. And you've got these like interesting storylines now. Like, because Rory's now coming down 15 at Augusta and something flashes on screen that says, Rory unforced errors in final 3 holes this season. Season high 12 or whatever. And again, it just provides some like stakes, some excitement, and it informs the view along the way. And then the rest of us can go, right, like, why is Rory making unforced errors under pressure or whatever it may be?
Yeah, or even guys that, it'd be interesting to look at that leaderboard for a season. Like which player is leading the tour in unforced errors? Like what's going on with them? You can ask them about it. Like, hey, you're leading the tour in unforced errors. What's going on mentally with you this year?
Right.
What do you guys think is holding the powers that be back from implementing all of the stats that you just proposed here?
I mean, I think you tell me, Kyle. I mean, obviously I'm not inside like the global home or whatever, but I think it's just the reason MLB is awesome at this is because they have taken their resources and built Baseball Savant. And they've been like, we're going to go in a data viz direction with this. We're not going to go in a writing direction or a video direction or a broadcast direction. We're going to do this. We're going to really hire up and make this awesome. And so I think it's just a priority thing. And listen, like there are guys smarter than me who are in charge of all the business side stuff. And so I'm sure there's reasons for it, but it's just not I think it's, I'm not trying to be mean or whatever. It just isn't a priority, right? They're focused on other things at the expense of certain other things. And this is one of those other things. Whereas in baseball, they've said, no, this is a priority. Like we want to visualize, we want to wrangle all the data we have. We want to visualize it as best we can. We want to integrate it everywhere we can. And that's why baseball is like, that's why we're talking about like RPMs and exit velos in baseball. And in golf, we're like, oh, like I wonder how often Rory misses putts when it matters. Like
it's a great question, and I don't really have a great answer. I think it does come down to priority, obviously. I do wonder if it's maybe they don't want stuff like that out there. Maybe they don't want to go in the direction of data and of stats and things like that. I do wonder if, I don't know all the people on the statistical side at PGAtour.com or the PGA Tour, but I would question, or I would wonder if they have deep golf storytellers on that side. So for example, if you put Sean Martin in charge of PGAtour.com stats, you would start to have some of this stuff, because he's thinking toward what are questions that people are even asking, or what are questions that I have that need to be answered by some of our data. And again, I don't know the people on that side, so I'm not specifically calling anybody out or anything like that, but I think that is probably part of it as well, because before you have the answers, and this is what Justin Ray is so good at, before you have the answers, you have to have great questions. Right. And so before you have the data, you have to have great questions that lead to some of that data being produced.
Yeah, exactly.
My third one is a little bit in conjunction with yours. We didn't really plan this, but and this one is maybe a little too ethereal and not a real thing, but strokes gained wisdom. And what I mean by that is who is the most willing to take on risky shots, and who is the most risk averse. So I think about your video that you made about Scotty Scheffler, and if people, we'll talk about it in a minute, but if people haven't seen it, they should go on YouTube, just YouTube Scotty Scheffler Golf Digest, whatever. You'll be able to find it pretty quickly. Scotty, I think, and maybe this is not a strokes gained stat, maybe it's just a risk versus risk averse stat. I think this is Scotty's superpower, is he has a ton of humility in saying, hey, I know I could hit this shot because I'm literally the best ball striker on the planet, but I don't think I should. And that's a really difficult thing to accept in the heat of the moment, in the middle of a tournament where you need to make up 2 strokes or 3 strokes on the leaders. And so I'd be fascinated to see who is the most willing to play away from hazards, to play away from pins, and who is the most willing to take them on. And in different situation, high leverage, I'm chasing from behind, I'm leading from out in front. I would be, man, I could spend all day on some sort of database or site or whatever that presented that kind of information, because it would either confirm or not confirm some of the theories I have about these guys in my head.
Yeah, this would be a great one too. And I think to your point, to your question earlier, Jason, I think in golf has this constant instinct, especially by higher ups, to say like, if we want to make golf popular, we need to make it more general. We need to water it down. We need to put the nerdy stuff over here, and we just need to like focus on all these other things that have nothing to do with the actual like playing of the game. Whereas something like this is quite nerdy, but I actually think leaning into it would be net better for golf.
I think it also says something about how do you take your audience seriously, and how do you also, it's kind of the thing of like, they don't know what they want until they see it. And once you start presenting them as options and you start enriching the broadcast, then it's like in baseball. Now you can't watch baseball and imagine it without the extra information, and you're not overwhelmed or burdened by it. It's really just, it becomes part of the enjoyment, which is, a testament to kind of the work they put in.
Yeah, in some ways, like you want to move people down the nerdy rabbit hole is how I kind of think about this, right? Like you want people to like catch the bug and like not really apologize for what golf is. Like you just want them to get really into it. Like Formula One does this really well. They're not trying to like, so like, oh, it's really just a car with wheels, but look at this cool, they're like getting into the tech. And I think baseball does this really well. And I think golf sometimes tries to apologize for what it is.
One sure way to keep people not interested or not to engage them is just not showing them the content to begin with. How do you know what's going to resonate if you just sort of ignore it or leave it out altogether?
Yeah. I think what you do when you get as nerdy as possible, what'd you call it? The nerd funnel?
Yeah, exactly.
Move them down the nerd funnel. You create evangelists for your sport in people like me and LKD, right? And so no longer do you have to draw people in with commercials or with any number of initiatives. Now Luke and I are doing it in our free time because we're like, oh, look at this thing is like so interesting to me. Let me tell you why it's interesting, and you should be interested in it as well. And if you're not doing that, then you're losing so much of your grassroots ability to market your product or your league.
Yep.
Okay. Those were great. Jason, did you have any questions on, I know you asked all on the way, but any final questions on those 6 stats that we threw out there?
I had one quote that I've been thinking about that relates to the last one that you were talking about, is the kind of aversion to taking on certain shots. And it's from the Mo and Me book about Mo Norman.
Great.
LKDF. I saw you posted something about Mo today. And in the book, he says, what happens to the mind and the swing? Is the will subservient to the imagination? So just this idea of taking on shots when you know you shouldn't, or not taking on the shots that you know you should. I think it's very interesting. Just want to throw that in there. Little Mo quote.
It's great.
I mean, that was
great quote.
That was Rory's entire final round at the Masters, right? Like that quote is the will. What was it? Is the will subservient to the imagination?
Yep.
That's Rory's entire career, honestly, and it epitomized with that final round of like, he literally said, because Jason and I have been going through some of the master stuff from this year because we're doing a book on it, Luke, and he literally said like, the shot on 7 that he hit through the trees, Harry was trying to talk me out of it, but I said, no, I think I got this. And you're like, that's like your whole career is people trying to talk you out of things and then being like, no, I've got to, like that's why you haven't won the Masters yet. And thankfully for his sake, and honestly for the rest of ours, it worked out this time, but there's plenty of times where it hasn't.
Yeah. See, like, and this is so funny because I'm pretty sure I'm right, but my theory on this is that Rory's bad habit under pressure is to get too conservative, is generally his issue. Like, and this first occurred to me actually with you, Kyle, when we had a conversation after LACC and he laid up on, I think it was 14, and it was really, and then he dumped his wedge shot on the bunker, made bogey, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
anyway,
gosh.
yeah, remember that? Like, and he does this a lot. Like, I think he should have hit his second shot on 13. I don't think he should have laid up there, but he did. And like, he tends to get, but I think the Masters, for whatever reason, he actually fought against this instinct and it almost always worked. Like on 7, he got really aggressive and it worked. He was really aggressive into that pin on 17. 15, of course, he was really aggressive. And he didn't like, he was very aggressive off the tee on 18 both times. So I think he, I don't know if he was doing it intentionally or if this was just a sort of instinctual thing, but he was actually getting quite aggressive during that final round. It was, and then the one time where he maybe got a little too conservative, it actually kind of bit him.
That's really interesting. Because I think about, I don't know that I had heard you lay out that theory in like with that amount of clarity. I think about the shot on Friday on 13 when it hits the bank and kind of jumps. I think it hit the bank and like jumped up, and I think he made 3 there. And he said afterwards, like, as the ball was in the air, I'm thinking, you idiot, what did you do? And so I think that it's such a, and this is the hard part about Rory is like, he's so overanalyzed that you could kind of tuck yourself into any kind of theory, like you could take one shot or one moment or one hole or one round even and build a theory on it. And I think the idea of looking at the whole thing, like you were saying, and saying that he's actually too conservative.
I mean, a great example of this, Kyle, sorry to interrupt, a great example of this is St. Andrews, right? Where his issue there was that he was flagging shots into the middle of greens, like, because he was trying to do the Tiger thing of protecting and playing safe and blah, blah, blah. When maybe somebody would catch me out here and say, well, actually, here are all the examples of Rory being too aggressive and it biting him. But off the top of my head, it sure seems like Rory tends to go the other direction, that he dials back and then he, for whatever, like he needs to be more like Arnold Palmer or Phil Mickelson under pressure and really go for it because he's good enough to do it and he seems to work when he does.
Is that a personality thing? Because with Tiger, we wouldn't have said that. Tiger was super conservative and protected leads. Is it a not understanding the situation thing? Like why is it that Rory should be more like Phil and Tiger was more like protective?
It's funny. The best explanation I ever heard about this was from Rick Sessinghaus, who's Colin Morikawa's swing coach, basically, but he is very good in the kind of mental sphere. And in a nutshell, he says that everybody's different and we all focus our best when we in different ways. So for instance, like Bryson focuses his best, gets into his flow state the best when he is trying to like figure out a problem. That's why when he's like on the range late at night, he's like looking at numbers, he's like fully engaged because he's just like addicted to figuring out this problem. Phil Mickelson, he maybe focuses his best when he's like in a money match, right? When he's like rolling the dice a little bit. That's just what gets him locked in. Tiger Woods, something else. So Rory, my loose theory, I don't know him like you do at all, but he maybe focuses his best when he can be a little showy, right? When he's got his Rory strut going, sure. When he can have people like really looking at him. And in order to be showy, it's really hard to be showy when you're bunting a wedge down the fairway and bunting a wedge on the green, right? Like there's like a slight irrational streak here, but it's like, hey, look at me. I'm Rory effing McIlroy. Like, look how good I am at golf. And so he needs to then like put himself in these situations where he's actually harnessing this instinct of his to like show off. And that may be being a little more aggressive than like the textbook would say.
That's really interesting. I think that's spot on in terms of how, like, when he's the most engaged. But I also think it seems like he's always fighting himself mentally in spots like this, right? Where he watched Tiger and he's like, well, like that's how Tiger did it. And like, I'm close to as good as Tiger. So maybe that's how I should do it. Like he seems to have like,
smart. Yeah.
He seems to have struggled with the idea of whether he should be conservative or aggressive in these spots, specifically at major championships, late in major championships over the last, 12 years.
Yeah, and he's a smart guy, and he's trying to do the mature thing. He's trying to not be tin cup. He's like, no, I'm good, but I should do what the book says, and I should just lay up, and then I'm going to wedge this onto the green on 13, and then but that's just not in his DNA. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I think, talking about books, Mo and me again, no, but Mo talks about it like letting yourself play, not making yourself play. And I think in Rory's case, that's really like when he's swashbuckling, that's just him letting himself be free. And when he makes those errors that you were talking about, in those kind of inopportune moments, he's kind of like forcing it or thinking like, what should I do in this situation? Not really trusting that he can handle any situation, kind of.
Yeah.
There's a great kids book, by the way, called "Don't Throw It to Mo." It's a little football book that my kids read. So every time you hold up Mo and me, that's what I'm thinking. It's like this little kids book about Mo's inability to catch and overcoming the situation. So my kids have ruined me. Today's sponsor, Holderness and Bourne, is our oldest partner and the business that has probably taken the biggest chance on us, which I'm personally very grateful for. Their product speaks for itself. We're always rocking it on our show, and I recently told Holderness and Bourne that I wanted to put Norman, our silly little sheep, on every single thing that they make. We can't quite afford that yet, but our desire to go back to them for the merch that we sell in our store is a testament to the quality of their shirts, hoodies, Q-zips, and more. You can check them out at holdernessandbourne.com. One of today's sponsors and longtime sponsor of Normal Sport is Ogio, which just dropped their first ever hard side luggage with the Renegade Vault. This is my favorite piece of luggage that I personally have ever owned. Like its name suggests, it's a rugged bag and was tested above industry standards for durability. If it's something that carries stuff you really care about, Ogio makes a premium version of it. Ogio built this bag with higher standards because hard side luggage has gone soft. Absolutely love that phrase. You can check them out at ogio.com. That's ogio.com. Well, we could psychoanalyze Rory, LKD, and I could for a long time. I don't want to do that. I do want to do that, but I don't want to do it today. We've got two more segments. We're not going to be able to get to everything, but I did have a new segment that I wanted to do specifically with LKD because I think it is. I think it's fascinating, and we are going to look at. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show LKD a leaderboard from a major, and I'm going to start to reveal it from the bottom up. So starting with the 10th place finisher in a major. These majors are not, this is not the 1917 US Open LKD. This is from the last 25 years. So it's relatively recent. And I think can you see that okay? Can you see what's on my screen?
I can see it. I usually suck at these things, so I'm a little nervous, but I can see it clearly.
Okay, so you can see it. For people that are just listening, I will I will say which players I'm revealing. I didn't put scores on there because that would help you figure out which major it is. So we're going to go from the bottom up. This will be fun. We'll talk about the major briefly afterwards, and then we'll end with 5 questions I have for LKD. So first player on the board, T9 at this major, Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. All right, I'm going to need more than Adam Scott finishing in the top 10.
Okay. We've got Ryan Moore finishing in the top 10, T9, with
Ryan
Adam Scott.
Moore. Okay, I'm thinking this might be... I'm thinking this might be then during like the year Ryan Moore made the Ryder Cup at Hazeltine. This is where my mind's going with this. So I'm thinking 2016-ish.
We've got Rory McIlroy.
Rory's always inside the top 10. Not helpful.
Yeah, doesn't do much.
I need like a Sean McKeel type to pop up. Someone's on.
Okay, we've got Kevin,
damn it, I got it. Okay.
Kevin Chappell in the top 10, T7 alongside Rory.
Kevin Chappell, he finished second at that US Open at Olympic, but that's obviously not 7th. I feel like this is an open. Maybe not. I'm going to need another one.
Okay, you need another one. I forgot what major it was. I had to look it up. Okay, I've got it again. 6th place, solo 6, Paul Casey.
Man, this is hard.
It is hard.
Scott Moore, McIlroy, Chappell, Casey.
This is the easiest one of the 3 that I was going to do.
All right, hit me up.
Okay, Thomas Pieters, T4.
I feel like Thomas Pieters played well in the Masters once. Okay, I'm nailing this down to... All right, keep it going.
T4, Matt Kuchar, along with Thomas Pieters. Couldn't be more different as player.
This is a 2006. This is 2000.
2006. No, wait, Thomas Pieters wasn't even born in 2006.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, not 2006. 2016-ish, I think.
This is so fun. Okay, you want me to keep going? We're at the top. We've got 3 people left.
Don't pity me. I want you to keep going. Yeah.
I mean, I would be right there with you. I wouldn't be able to. Okay, Charles Schwartzel, number 3.
Okay. I think this is going to be the 2016 Masters. That's my guess.
Okay, that's incorrect. So we'll keep going. Number 2, Justin Rose.
But Justin Rose has finished second a sneaky amount of time in majors, especially at the Masters. This is not the Masters. Okay.
It's not the 2016 Masters, is what I said.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the 2016 majors. When did he finish second at? Okay, give me one more. I'm going to get this next one, unless we're running out. It's
the champion, so I would hope you get it.
It's the freaking Masters, though. At least I got the venue. At least I got the venue right.
You did, and you got it early.
Tragic.
2017 Masters.
2017 Masters.
Yeah, 2016 was the Danny Willett.
That's right.
Which
I'm an idiot.
The fake.
Yeah, This is a fun game though. I bet there are going to be people out here who are super good at this, like weirdly good, because they're going to remember, like, I bet on Ryan Moore and he won.
And he won T9 because he, bogeyed 16 coming home.
Yeah,
and you're like, what? I didn't even know Ryan Moore was in the tournament. Okay, that was fun. Jason, did you know it before LKD did?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, definitely. I was totally out on an island, lost there. No. I mean, you asked me, like, when did Sergio Garcia win the Masters? I would have to really rack my brain to think about the year. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I remember it because it's the year that I got to play Augusta National. So
I stand by my logic because there was a bunch of 2016 one and done Ryder Cuppers in there. So what's funny is that it was actually after they were good in the Ryder Cup, not qualifying them into the Ryder Cup. So
Ryan Moore, Thomas Pieters, Kuchar was on that 2016 Ryder Cup. Rose and Sergio, obviously. These are all Paul Casey. I think he was on that team. Maybe.
I think he was. Yeah.
Kevin Chappell was, I believe, a 2017 President's Cupper.
All right. All right, give me another one. I need another one now. I need redemption.
Oh, you want to do another one? I was just going to limit it to one.
Oh, limit the down.
Got to do another one.
Got to do one more.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
Even though this was on record as the easiest one.
Let me pull one up real quick. Okay. I don't think you'll be able to get this, but we'll have some fun with it. Okay, here we go. T10.
Okay.
Or T9, Hideki. That should probably do nothing for you. T10, Ricky Fowler.
Okay. Oh,
T10,
he had
Gonzalo.
he had a moment. Gonzalo Fernandez Castagna. Where did he have a moment though? I remember him being a trendy pick at the Masters, though. This isn't going to be the Masters, I reckon. I feel like he played well in like a PGA. I don't know. Keep going. I'm going to need like 2 more.
Okay, you probably need more than that. Number T10, Nicholas Colsaerts.
God. See, like somebody's going to remember when Nicholas Colsaerts played well somewhere. Like,
well, for some of these guys, like Colsaerts and GFC, Gonzalo Fernandez Castagno, they only had like 3 top 10s at majors, right? So like,
right. So if you remember one of them, you got a 33% chance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll get to the, I believe these are the T6s, T8.
Oof, Stricker. All right, keep
Steve
going.
Stricker.
I remember he played well at Marion, but this seems too low. I think Donald was kind of up there at Marion too. 2013. Well, that was 2013 US Open. Give me one more, and then I'm gonna make it.
Hunter Mahan.
Is it the 2013 US Open?
Let's go, LKD.
Yes. Okay. I feel good now. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was crazy. We got Justin Rose. Justin Rose obviously won. Jason Day, Phil. When Phil was maybe misclubbed.
But I think this was the year Mayhem was in the final group of like 4 majors or 3 majors or something. This was Stricker hit a shank. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Stricker hit a shank during the final round. This was an underrated major. Yeah.
Phil holed out in the final round. This was the year that Mahan was in the final pairing at Muirfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he lost to Phil.
When Phil shot 66 to win that Open. That was the crazy, like Tiger, Mahan, Phil, like everybody. Adam Scott was in that late. Jason Duffner, I didn't remember being T4 at this US Open. Ernie Els was T4 at this US Open.
Duffner shot like a bazillion under on Sunday. This was like a backdoor T4.
I think this was the round that Horschel hit all 18 greens in regulation.
That's awesome. Around Marion,
in the octopus pants. He was wearing octopus pants. I remember that. That's right. And then Hunter Mahan, Luke Donald, Steve Stricker, a bunch of Ryder Cup captains here. Colsaerts, Fowler, Matsuyama. Okay, that was fun.
Okay, LKD,
I want to get you out of here on this. I've got 5 questions for you that these are questions that I've either meant to ask you or wanted to ask you or whatever along the way. So we'll start with this. What is your hottest major championship related take?
This is one that I just believed for a while and then just like backed into it. It's that Aaron Baddeley would have won a major if he stuck with stack and tilt. So stack and tilt was this great.
I love that it's not like, oh, Tiger should have won more majors. It's Aaron Baddeley would have won a major if he stuck with the stack. This is the most LKD answer I've ever seen.
Stack and tilt was this like hugely controversial golf swing method that defied it defied this like conventional wisdom that you should load up on your right side. It said no, never load up on your right side, stay left, and it looked kind of goofy. And Aaron Baddeley went full in to stack and tilt, and his swing looked weird. He was on the cover of the book, he was on Golf Digest, everything, and he used a generational putter. And doing this, it became a little sensation in the golf swing world. And he popped into the final round at Oakmont. And then he was the 54-hole leader at Oakmont and in the final group, except then he exploded and got nervous. And then that led to this kind of downward spiral. And I remember I think it was 2008, I was in high school. No, I was just started college. And I was at the Heritage. And I said, oh, Aaron Baddeley, you still stacking tilting? I was just some punk college kid. He said, no, I was hitting the ball too low. But of course, he never got good enough doing this. So my theory back then that I formed, that I just kind of have to believe now, is that if he would have just stuck with this very simple type golf swing, his putting would have been good enough to actually have him win a major because he was having success with it. He just got spooked by a collapse during the final round at Oakmont.
Yeah, 2007 U.S. Open. Career top 10s for Aaron Baddeley at majors?
0, I think, because he
Correct.
Oh, yeah, 0.
Yeah, T13 at the 2007 U.S. Open at Oakmont, T13 at the 2008 PGA Championship. That was when Padraig won, I believe.
See, but like I think he won once in 2006 and then once in 2007, and then he got into the final group at Oakmont. And so he was like, and people at the time were like, oh, Aaron Baddeley's pretty good because he's a good putter and he's figured out his golf swing. But then, and this happens sometimes, like a really bad, traumatic, high pressure situation, it can just throw you off course. And this is the backbone of my...
Yeah, strokes gained under pressure. There's a great story. One of my friends, kind of a mentor, he was playing with Aaron Baddeley at an amateur event, maybe the USAM. And Mike Holder, who was the coach at Oklahoma State, was there watching. And my friend went up to Mike Holder and said, hey, Mike, I know who you are. He was in high school. I know who you are. Just wanted to say thank you for coming to watch, to see me play. Like, it's really an honor. Like, it's really, really cool that you came out here to watch me. And Mike Holder looked at him and said, I'm here to see him. I'm here to see Aaron Baddeley. I don't even know who you are.
It's amazing.
Aaron Baddeley was an amazing, amazing amateur. Really great.
Amazing amateur, won the Australian Open, is a generationally good putter. It was just always his ball striking. And for a moment, he found something that I thought worked for him. But yeah, I don't even know how firmly I believe this take, but I'm going to go to the grave making myself believe it. There's a green jacket left in the closet that has Aaron Baddeley's name on it.
He won the 1999 Australian Open as an amateur.
Yeah.
I don't think I can find a leaderboard for that. Maybe Jason can find it while we're chatting. Okay, next question. What piece of content that you've made are you most proud of over the years?
I've written a couple Rory things I'm pretty proud of, but it's probably the Scheffler video I did that we mentioned earlier, because it just took ages. It took ages. I went back and I looked at him during that hot streak that he had a couple of years ago, and I looked at, went through all the shot link stuff and where was the pin? Where did he hit ball relative to the pin? And I just went through piece by piece by piece, and then I made a whole video about it, and it took me ages, and I worked really hard on it. And it was rewarding both to see the video perform well, and it also had what I call the trifecta, the Luke trifecta, which is I got the player, the coach, and the caddy all to comment on this. And Ted Scott's has been really complimentary about my work because of this. And what's most rewarding, not just the people, but a lot of junior golfers have come up to me and said, hey, Luke, my coach sent me this video, and it's really helped me too. And that's like one of these like intangible, like, oh, cool. This is like, if it's helping junior golfers play a little better, and I worked hard on it, it's cool. It was just cool to see it come together.
I agree. To bring you down a notch, I just I just looked at the video, and one of the comments on there is, this channel is great for my insomnia. Your voice never fails to put me to sleep, even during the day.
I get a lot of, this guy should be reading Winnie the Pooh. I didn't know I didn't know Prince Charles. I didn't know Prince Harry or Prince Charles or one of the princes knew golf.
That's just a lazy like England take. Like Prince Charles, that's like dumb.
I've been getting an uptick in Sam Altman comments too. They say I look like Sam Altman. They say, I didn't know Sam Altman knew golf. And I'm like, oh man.
Well, it's an amazing piece of content. I think that, I think oftentimes in our world, you spend hours and hours and hours on a written piece or a video thing or a podcast, whatever, and you put it out there and it's like crickets, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I put so much time, effort, and energy into this. Nobody cared about it. And I thought it was the perfect marriage of like, it was very clear from watching it that you put a ton of time, effort, and energy into it. But it also translated in a way that really resonated with even like a high school golfer or a college golfer or somebody like my dad. It was easy for him to understand, which I think is way more difficult to do than like you made it look in that video. So Jason and I reference all the time like if I reference or if I say something about Scotty, Jason literally in our document, he always leaves a comment link to LKD's video, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to link back to that. So it's
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my thing too is like, I'm not, I'm a passable writer, but like, I can't write like you or Shane Ryan or KVV. Like, I need to find my edge. I think I'm pretty good at explaining stuff, making it simple, but I need to find my edge, not in my like, execute by the way I write. I need to like do this other stuff. I need to go find stuff. I need to go that's where I think I need to work especially hard and try to then use it to complement this thing that I think I do quite well, but because I can't just like write prose like some of you guys. So, and I think I did that well there. So I was proud of myself.
I think to jump in, just the ability to pull things from all different corners of the golf world, that also means like historical digging and then bringing the history into context, and also talking about how Ben Hogan's play relates to Scotty Scheffler's play. I mean, that's the good stuff. So yeah, all that digging is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very, very cool, and I learned a ton from it, which is it's God, there was something else I was going to say about it. It's if people haven't watched it, they should. Oh, I was going to ask you who's like not praise, but like commendation or like kudos do you like makes you feel the most validated after you have finished something like that? Is it other media people? Is it the play? Is it like how do you think about that? I
mean, with love, I don't necessarily care about what like other media people think, because like it could be, I don't know, we all kind of come from similar backgrounds. Some people may like it because they just like that kind of content, whatever. I'm also not doing very adversarial journalism, right? Like I'm doing a lot of explainer stuff, a lot of game improvement stuff. So I always feel extremely validated when like a player or a coach comes up to me and says, you really got that right. Or I really learned something from that. And that, because that to me is like, if a player came up to me and said, hey, I don't think I was mad or whatever, but my media people were supportive, but the thing I wrote about was about how the player's golf swing worked or strategy, it probably means I got the thing wrong, and my friends in the media center just being supportive. So so I guess like when I hear like Ted Scott was like, yeah, man, you really nailed that. You like really did a good job explaining I was like, wow, this is awesome, because it's like reassuring that I like got this right, if that makes sense.
Do players come to you with topics that they'd like you to dig into?
Increasingly. I mean, Kyle will speak to this too. I feel like they see you coming a little bit more on tour, where like once they kind of get the gist of what you do, then like some guys don't want anything to do with me because they're like, who is this like guy who is going to make me think too much about like what I do in my golf swing? I don't want to think on that level. But then some guys are just nerds and they get really into it. They want to know what they're doing. They have ideas. So yeah, it's not polarizing is the wrong word, but some guys can see me coming and like it, and some guys just don't want to go on that level.
It has been interesting to watch that evolution, because we've roughly been out there the same amount of time, and when you ask questions about the swing, which is some, not all of your questions, but in press conferences or whatever,
and kind of most of them,
guys will engage in a way that if a local media person asked a question about the swing, they would be like, whatever, I'm not going to give this person, first of all, they probably won't even understand, but they'll engage LKD in a way that they know he speaks their language. And so they'll immediately dive below the surface and start speaking that language. Honestly, Jason, like half of the battle of media and player interaction is speaking their language. So if you can start whether it's about the swing or performance or major or any of it, like if you get into their world and start speaking the language that they speak, there's an immediate trust that they have, not complete, but like a little bit of like, okay, I can trust this person, I can give them things, I know they're not gonna like ruin me with them, or because from their point of view, like they don't know who I am, they don't know who LKD. I mean, on a personal level, a lot of times, especially when we first get out there. So you do have to start speaking the language a little bit to build that trust. And I think LKD does a really good job of that.
I always just think with pros, but also just in life, like people, I feel like you have about one sentence worth of real estate in other people's heads, you know? And so like, and I think it's especially true with pros. So like, if a pro's like, oh, you know, this guy or Luke, golf swing guy, whatever, you know, that's about as much as I get. Like, I think that just knowing that, it can just in some ways, to Kyle's point, just give them some level of familiarity. Whereas if you can't really clearly answer that, like, what are you in one sentence to these guys? Like, you're just fighting a little bit of an uphill battle, because then you have to get through the initial like mistrust or distrust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that luxury. I basically have like, I draw Tyrrell Hatton as an Amish guy. That's my role. It's not a really good opener, but that's what I do. Yeah.
It's certainly unique. Okay, last couple here. LKD, what do regular people, or just people even that you are meeting for the first time, what do they misunderstand about your job?
Yeah, I think it's how common like skipping media is, like how tricky access can be, you know, how like it's kind of enabled by the tools. They're really afraid of their players. They kind of let players skip all the time. Like there is no obligation for players to come and do media, as, you know, like Rory's talked about and stuff. And I think that this whole world of like, oh, so-and-so just played badly, I'm going to skip media, or so-and-so just doesn't want to do media today and the tool's going to like not make you do whatever, is like a whole dynamic that I think people at home don't really, they don't really understand works. And it can be like which is a constant headache for kind of the people who are actually trying to do this.
Yeah. How do you, like, does it make you mad? Does it make you like frustrated? Like, how does it make you feel whenever that happens?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating for me, obviously, because a lot of the stuff I do is like talking to pros, talking to coaches, like trying to figure out what they're doing. And that just requires like a bit of a one-on-one conversation a lot of times. And, but you know, like it's lucky, like it's gotten easier as I've been out there more. Like players will come to me, I go to players, whatever, I go to coaches. But it's, when it feels like the tour or whatever is like actively trying to like keep media away from players, it just feels like I'm not sure whose interest this is actually serving here. You know, it may be, they may think it's serving the players, but it's actually not even in the players' best interest, because then people aren't going to know who Brian Harman is, like, and all these interesting things that we can share to the world about like Brian Harman and how his approach to the game. Those are just left in the bucket. And the PGA Tour may think like, oh, well, we can tell these stories and we can be the one-stop shop, but it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, it's frustration, I guess, is the overriding emotion.
Well, you got to keep the crooked media at bay from some of these guys. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, there's absolutely no sympathy from readers and followers, or I shouldn't say readers and followers. I should say like people in general about like the media's plight as it relates to access to talk to different people. And honestly, like I'm probably like what I do requires less of that. So I'm more ambivalent about like, if a guy didn't want to talk for a day or two, like whatever, like it doesn't bother me a ton. I think I get frustrated when it's like the Rory thing at the PGA where he like didn't talk the whole week and you're like, what are we?
Yeah, like I was a little frustrated there because it's like, oh yeah, you want to go see your kid? Like I'm away from my 3-year-old, you know, I'm here all week trying to do this. And, you know, I have a life too. And like, you know, oh cool, it must be really nice that you can just decide to not do this. Like, you know, I'm not out, you know, it's like, there are a lot of elements of my job that are obviously really fun, but I think there should just be some baseline respect here of like, you know, we all have lives too, and we're trying to like meet in the middle and do the best we can for this. And so, and it can be a little frustrating when it's like, oh, like, let's just ignore what this group of people say that's actually kind of in our interest, because the short-term gain of not having an awkward conversation with like this player, it's just a whole frustrating thing.
Yeah. And I mean, the irony is that Rory is one of the few people that actually does understand that on a pretty like legitimate level. I think some guys, they're like, they just don't like literally don't understand it. They don't get it. Like they don't understand that it is in their best interest to talk and to explain and to like people are like you and I are not out to get them or to like catch them or anything like that. And Rory, like that whole that whole Postmasters thing was pretty weird. Okay, 2 more. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what was the exact moment that you fell in love with golf?
When Sergio Garcia hit that shot off the tree at the 99 PGA, I was not into golf at the time, and I watched it and I said, that was really cool. How did that happen? And then from there, led to this just like aggressive golf like obsession that I'm currently locked in to this day.
Was it
Yeah.
Was it in your family? Like, were there people in your family that you like picked it up from, or?
My dad was pretty into golf, but that's not how I got into golf. It was honestly just, I was really into soccer. I was really into sport. But that 99 was, the end of 99 was like a really, I was basically just becoming golf aware or whatever. And I saw Sergio Garcia to do that. And it's like, oh, here's this like kid who looks like me. I mean, I'm 11 and he's 19 or whatever at the time. But, it's like, oh, here's a young guy who's doing this amazing stuff. He's running down the fairway. He hit this shot. He's taking on Tiger Woods. He could be awesome himself. And then the Ryder Cup in 99 was this big dramatic thing too. And I was in England at the time, so there was like a lot of outrage. So it just was like, wow, all these interesting things are happening in golf. And then I started playing it and just got aggressively hooked on it.
Okay, last one. And I know maybe we should do a whole podcast on this between you and I, but if you could pin the difference between the European success and American struggles at the Ryder Cup on one thing, and we've talked about 10 of them even in this podcast, what's the one thing that you would pin it on?
Yeah, like, I'm not going to hit you with the dumb Europeans care more take, because that's not true. But I do think European team takes it a little more seriously. And what I mean by that is that they have like professionalized the running of this, right? And they like build this out like a professional sports team, whereas the US team, they basically operate in a way, like imagine having a sports team the way the US Ryder Cup team runs, which is like, yeah, win or lose, every 2 years we fire the head coach, we fire all the coaches, and then we bring in a new head coach who's never done it before and have him hire up everybody. And then, we just roll the dice, see what happens. And they're going up against like a really dialed backroom staff. And I think that this just seeps through the teams in all sorts of ways. Like the European players, they really buy into this being different. And, we need to get out of our comfort zones this week. We are like a team. We've got this backroom infrastructure. Whereas the US team, they kind of are just constantly almost like playing catch up. They're hiring up these guys. These captains are trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to make sure that like Scotty Scheffler can just feel the same way that he feels at Bay Hill because he wins at Bay Hill. So if we just do that, then he'll win at the Ryder Cup. And it's fundamentally different, right? And I think that the reason they can't solve that problem consistently on the US side is because they just haven't really seriously looked at how to run the back end of this, like the way the Europeans have.
I think there's a dozen reasons why that's the case, like that the Americans haven't invested as much. One of them is just the fact that there's some continuity between the European Tour running regular stuff and then also running the Ryder Cup, and there's not that continuity with the PGA of America. So again, we could do an hour on that, but I am very much with you that there's been just deeper investment on the European side than there has been on the American side.
Shane Ryan, he I can't stop thinking about this since he brought it up. It's like, that meme where it's like the bell curve and it's like the dumb people on this end, the smart people.
Yeah.
And then, and he was like, like, why did Europe win Ryder Cup? And the dumb take is like, they just really care about it. Or, they take it really seriously. And then there's like, pairings and this and that and that and that. And then like the really enlightened viewers, they just take it really seriously.
It's so true because we've all traveled that meme. Like we've all started with like, maybe they just care like about it more than, and then we got to the middle of like trying to break down like and get it. And you're like, and now I think a lot of us have arrived on the other side of like, they just like put more into it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I think that's it. Oh, that's so good. Okay, D. Thank you for coming on. Jason, you got any final thoughts or takes, any notes on what we talked about? Or I know you popped in intermittently, but anything we messed up or any questions you have?
I know you guys were waiting for the leaderboard from the 2000 Holden Australian Open. Was that right? Where Baddeley won, Allenby finished second, Dick Green was in third, Norman was in the top 10.
Was that Mo or Greg?
Yeah, Greg Norman. I don't know if that's a really great place to finish, but there's bringing in that info.
That's the perfect place. Were there any Americans that were like close?
No, not really.
Always makes my heart sing. A Faldo top 10.
A lot of Aussies.
A Faldo top
Is
10.
W. Smith? No.
Is
Will Smith?
Where are you on greatest European of all time between Sevi, Faldo, and Rory? I think those are the three contenders.
It's probably Rory. It breaks my heart a little bit because I'm just such a Faldo. I just grew up so idolizing Faldo. It wasn't even funny, but I think it's Rory. So I think it's Rory, then Faldo, then Sevi. But the funny alternate history here is that, Faldo converted a heck of a lot of his majors. He got handed a couple. And the funny alternate history here is that if that doesn't happen to Faldo and that does happen to Justin Rose, like suddenly we're talking about Justin Rose as a top 2, 3 European ever. And it's funny to think about because, man, Justin Rose had a lot of bad major luck fall his way and Faldo had a lot of good major luck. And Justin Rose ends up with 1 major and Faldo ends up with 6.
Yeah. Nick Faldo, 6 major wins. So 3 Masters, 3 Opens, 26 top 10s out of 100. So 26%. But half of those were at the Open Championship, which I think is really interesting. Justin Rose, I've got obviously 1 major win. He's got 23 top 10s in 85 events. So about the same top 10 percentage, but the wins, I mean, Justin Rose could legitimately have 4 majors.
I know.
2 Masters, a US Open, and an Open Championship. I don't know if he was ever that close at the PGA.
And think about like Faldo. He had the Scott Hoke Masters, where Scott Hoke missed the tap-in. That fell his way. And then the Greg Norman historic collapse in 96. That fell his way. And that is just 2 of the most historic chokes in golf history both ended up in Faldo's hands. That's before we get into the tactics of, like, there are other things happening at some of the other majors. I'm not obviously dissing on my idol, Nick Faldo. It's just one of these funny, like, tipping points in history, right? Where the way we're going to remember someone like Nick Faldo and Justin Rose is that we're going to have to make an argument about how good Justin Rose was because his record doesn't fully reflect that. Whereas Faldo, because his record speaks for itself because these things fell his way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point. And that's so much of Bacon and I talk about this. Like, who are the guys that have 1 major that you're like, whoa, like this guy was a lot better than, like, it's not commensurate with how good that, like, Adam Scott is a great example.
Yeah.
Justin Rose and Adam Scott are Fred Couples maybe is a decent example. By the way, Justin Rose's best finish at the PGA Championship, 2012. He finished T3 with Keegan, Carl Pedersen, and Ian Poulter. He was -4, 9 back of Rory, who shot 75 in the second round and won by a lot at Kiowa. Do you know who finished? If you know who finished second that year, I'll send you a Normal Sport hat.
Oh, man. I have no idea who finished second that year.
Fellow Englishman.
Who's good? Was it like Chris Wood or something? Was it like a random?
It is random. It's not Chris Wood. David Lynn.
Man. Well, there you go.
I'll send you a Normal Sport hat anyway.
This reminds me of one of my favorite weird golf stats ever, which is that in a world without Tiger, so all Tiger's wins go to the next man down. In a world without Tiger, Sean McKeel has 2 major wins. He finished solo second at one of Tiger's PGA wins.
That would be an interesting podcast or piece, is just in a world without Tiger, whose career changed. Because I think people would presume that it's Phil or Ernie Els.
It wouldn't have been Phil. It might have been Els. I don't,
DeMarco, I think.
Yeah, like DeMarco would be a great one. He would be maybe a multiple major champ,
Yeah, there was a couple guys in there that you're like, oh, that's not who I... Yeah, we'll save that for the next one. Okay, LKD, thank you for coming on. I always appreciate your time. Always learn from you. I have so many takeaways even from this pod that will inform the way that I think about pro golf, major championship golf in 2026. So thank you for your time. We'll send you some Normal Sport gear, even though you missed David Lynn. Jason, always enjoy chatting with you.
What a treat.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, but yeah, I hope people enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you again later on.